What role does the dissolution of distortion and the restoration of wholeness and sacred listening have in relation to the self, parenthood, and projects?
The world has to start to reorganize itself around me holding this frequency.
Welcome to the Frequency Files. Thanks for joining us as we explore the vibrations, forms, and creations and mechanisms behind them that inform the nature of existence. Thank you so much for being here for part 2 of this amazing conversation with Kathryn Vere. Kathryn, I would love to keep exploring the application of some of these concepts and your wisdom. What role do you see soul-led entrepreneurs and conscious projects having in this new era that we're stepping into and creating?
Well, if they're consciously connecting in to these frequencies of wholeness, then they're going to be bringing more wholeness into the world and more love into the world and less distortion, because the moment there's just so much distortion in the world that people don't even realize it, because from the earliest stages, as I've said, we're impacted and influenced and carrying all this distortion. So when you look at social media posts and programs that people put out there, once you start to be able to sense and discern what this distortion actually feels like, you can sense how much distortion is still in everyone's field. And their message is not coming from the clearest place it could be coming from. It's not coming from frequency, from source, from that very pure source. And people don't realize that because it feels so normal to have that amount of distortion and disruption and odd frequencies, funky stuff going on in you've got so used to it, you don't realize. People think, why aren't people listening to my message? Why don't people hear me? Why don't they see me? But maybe it's because you've picked up all this distortion from the world, from other people, and actually until you clear that interference, it's like a radio radio interference, loads of radio waves of all different kinds of frequencies that are going around you, through you, and then you're bringing those forward. So how are you helping the world if you're bringing forward a distorted frequency? But that is the reason that very few people can really sense you, or the right people can feel that you can help them, because actually what you're saying and where it's coming from is not from your original frequency. It's coming from your original frequency that's been distorted, projected, shifted, fractured, wounded by so many other frequencies. So really you're just bringing forward a very muddled, confused frequency, which is why some of you could pick up some of the wrong people, or nothing very much happens. And people talk about finding your voice and various things you can do, meditating, doing affirmations, things like that. But you've really got to actually do this work of saying, right, okay, so maybe my frequencies are distorted. And as soon as you even say that, you get the clarity to see that that's what's happened. And that this is now the bit that needs to be, this is like the final piece that needs to be shifted and needs to be cleared. And it can be literally dissolved. And then your message becomes clear. The voice becomes pure. It comes from that deep place. It resonates with people because it stands out. And this is how solopreneurs and healers can stand out, by doing this beautiful piece of work. Because in a very muddled, distorted world, the pure original voice and frequency that is totally in alignment with somebody, it stands out. It's going to stand out. And this is actually how people can stand out.
Yeah, that is fascinating. And just as you said, the awareness of the distortion helps the disillusion take place.
What are some other ways that people can start to take responsibility for anchoring that wholeness and that aligned frequency within themselves?
Well, I think the first thing is to understand that it needs to be done. You've got to have the awareness before you can do anything. So you've got to be aware and you've got to be honest with yourself. Well, if this project isn't happening, this relationship isn't working, I'm not feeling well, and no one's really responding to my messages, or the wrong people are coming forward, then let's take responsibility for saying, well, what if I'm just in a fairly contaminated space? It's not me. It's just I'm in a contaminated space and I'm not fully connected to. I mean, this is another interesting thing, Sarah, because some people I've spoken to about this go, oh yeah, that's just about connecting to the divine and we're all good, you know. This type of thing. And people are very quick to, I want to say this because I think people are very quick to listen to somebody like me and you speaking and go, oh, it's just that. Oh, it's just soul retrieval. Oh, put it in some little box somewhere. And I really want to reiterate this thing I'm talking about has come through after, more than 44 years of a deep inner work. This is not just an overnight sensational, you know, 10-minute wonder thing or something that you've heard before that you can just relate to something else. This happened to me yesterday. I was talking to somebody about it. And, oh, it's just soul retrieval. No, it's not. It's not just soul retrieval. It's not just healing, and it's not just connecting with the divine love and emitting that. It's really doing this work of going back to our original frequency, our soul eternal frequency. And when we've done that strongly enough, that's step one. Then step two, when that's really integrated and embodied, step two is then starting to emit that. And when you start to emit that, then you can emit that through your breath, through your awareness, through sound, through taking mini actions, through writing. There are many movement. There are many ways you can start to emit your signal out into the world. It's like being a lighthouse. You're shining that light and you're emitting that signal in whatever way feels right. So that's step two. And what happens then? I mean, in step one, there's relief. It's like, I don't have to search anymore. I don't have to do all this healing anymore. Oh my God, I'm free, And I'm being resourced. I'm not exhausted anymore. I'm being resourced by this frequency because it recharges me, it nourishes me. So it's going to keep me going. And then in the step two, where we're emitting, then suddenly what happens is the world has to start to reorganize itself around me, holding this frequency. So instead of me, when I spent most of my life doing, being a satellite to other people, because that's what happened as a child, I wasn't being seen or valued or known or anything like that. So I was the one that had to accommodate everybody else and listen to everyone else and carry all their problems and their feelings and all of that. And I spent my life doing that. So of course I've abandoned my frequency. I didn't even know that I could reconnect with it. But when you do reconnect with it, and that's step two, where you start to emit that, what happens is that, people, all the right people and the right opportunities will start to resonate literally. And this is about trusting the frequency rather than the mind, where you say, what does my frequency feel? What does my frequency want me to do? And then you can say, what does my mind say? What does my mind want me to do? You start to feel the difference between what your mind is saying and what frequency is saying. And you start to listen more and you say, what is my frequency today? What is the theme of my frequency? What does it want to voice today? And it could be something quite simple, but you're starting with this journey of being able to emit from this place. And this is where the power starts to come in, because the heaven on earth happens when we're all emitting our unique frequencies together. It's so much easier to find each other and to see how we need to connect in order to help the world move forward.
Yeah, that's so wonderfully put. Yeah, and the more we cultivate and maintain, honor, and listen to and live by our wholeness, the more completeness is occurring for us personally and then collectively.
Of course, because other people can then entrain to our frequencies. So as we emit, not only are we drawing in people on the right thing, we're actually changing the world as we walk, where we live, where we walk. People we see, they notice and they feel it, and you can see that they kind of look up, or they will say, "Oh, you look young," or "You're glowing," or something. They don't quite know what's changed in you, but they can feel something has changed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kathryn, what's something that you just wish people could know?
I wish people could know that all the wisdom that they ever need is within them. They don't need to go to external sources. That's just a big, big lie that we've been told, that other people know better what we should be feeling, doing, knowing, understanding, and they don't. And I wish people knew that, and knew it in a way that when they find themselves feeling vulnerable and thinking, oh well, nothing's happening, so I better ask somebody else, that they can remember that they can tune in and trust what comes through. Even if it's as simple as looking up at the sky and going, I don't know what to do. I see all these extremes, these possibilities. What do I do? And then literally trust what comes through down from the sky. I've done that so many times, and it's been so helpful to me on my journey. So knowing that they have the wisdom within themselves, know that they have that, knowing that it's their job to love themselves. It's no one else's job. So, I'd love parents to know that if they love themselves, they're actually modeling for their children how they can love themselves. I'm not saying you don't love your children, but also love yourself, because children learn from what's being modeled by you. And if you learn how to love yourself, it's your job, they will always know how to love themselves. So you're free, and they will be free of relationships that get very attached and codependent and all those kinds of things. So we have all that. It's our job to love ourselves, and all the wisdom we need we can access either within ourselves or from the sky. So I wish people knew that, and I wish that they knew that they didn't have to heal forever, that they can find a way of being able to heal from a place of wholeness and not a place of fracture.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Kathryn, I know we've had some discussions about a recent pilgrimage that you had to Lourdes. Could we talk a little bit more about that? And also maybe about some of the further guidance that you might be able to offer to people, whether they're parenting or they're reparenting themselves. Any insights that have come from that exploration?
Yeah, sure. So I was called to go to Lourdes. It wasn't in my plan, but I saw this opportunity. I knew I had to go. And the timing was so interesting, because the very week I was there, and as I say, it wasn't planned mentally by me at all. I never ever thought I'd go. It was the week that was celebrating the centenary of Saint Bernadette becoming a saint, her sanctification of 100 years. And Saint Bernadette was the very poor girl who had many apparitions of Mother Mary, and was told by Mother Mary that a church needed to be built on that land. Now there are 3 basilicas built there. There's an underground one which is suitable for like 25,000 people. It's amazing underground
Whoa.
basilica. And then there's a basilica on top of that, which is beautiful, looks like something out of Disney or something, and then another basilica on top. So there's 3 basilicas on top of each other. And thousands of people go there every day, and they sing and they take candles around, and hundreds of people in wheelchairs. There's loads of volunteers. It's the most incredible place of love, and it's a sanctuary. And there's this cave, which is where a lot of the masses happen in all different languages. And it was in the cave, which is underneath the basilica, the main basilica, where Bernadette had all these apparitions of Mother Mary. And so when I saw this poster saying that it was this week was the 100 years sanctification, I remembered suddenly that it had been exactly 50 years before that I had been there, and you couldn't have made that up. But my dad took me there when I was 11, and it's 50 years later going there. And that was, again, it was almost like a confirmation, goosebumps of that's why you've come back, because not that I'm going to be there in another 50 years, because I don't think my body's going to last that long, but who knows? Who knows? But anyway, we did deep healing work in the mornings and the afternoons. We spent a lot of time in the sanctuary, just in that love of the divine feminine, our divine mother, through Mother Mary. And I guess it's important to say to people, because I met quite a few people who were like, oh God, I wouldn't go there. Oh, it's touristy. Oh, it's all Catholic. It's all this, it's all that. And not understanding that, a lot of Western people are got happier to connect with people like Kuan Yin, or some of the more Indian guys. It's kind of a bit sexier, and they're not overlaid with all the sort of Catholicism, the organized religion. But actually, this is our inheritance. It's our birthright. And I could feel the purity that so many people miss because I was open to going. And in fact, I went with a friend who'd had no upbringing in religion as I had done, because I was kind of born next door to a church and brought up in a church and whatever, and then found my own way through that to spirituality, to a wider sense of spirituality. But it's still ingrained in me. It was still very much part of my life. And of course, my dad's idea of holidays was to take his family to all these sacred sites in Europe. So that's how I ended up in Lourdes. But on the last day, I had a beautiful whole, immersion in the healing water. They have healing waters there, which I was able to drink all week, which was beautiful. I did deep healing work. And on the last day, I was sitting across the river from the grotto, and I was able to just start having a conversation with Mother Mary in spirit, and we spoke for about 2 hours. And she told me that she told me a lot of things. She said that she said people need to understand about sacred listening. She said, that's what I do. I sacred listen, and all these people tell me all their their problems, their issues. And she gave me a mission. She said, I want you to help all the millions of mothers in the world who are so struggling with their children and have so lost touch with their own connection to wisdom, and to me through wisdom. And you have these understandings that you need to take out into the world and share with mothers to reduce their struggle and their suffering, and to show them this middle way through extremes that so often I found. And she said she'd help me to find, because all the times I'd gone, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that, so what do I do? Help. When I was bringing up children, I got this guidance, and I want to show, she wants me to teach other women how to find that guidance, so that they can be liberated from so much of the emotional energy that they are putting into parenting. They can learn how to conserve that emotional energy so that they can take more leadership roles in the world, in addition to being parents. And that's needed, because the divine feminine is needed to come into these leadership roles. But while women are still stuck in all that emotional energy going into their children, what they're eating, what they're doing, what they're worrying about, all of that. And I need to be able to teach women how to completely conserve their emotional energy, being present with their children, but not giving it away. And that is so magical, because that emotional energy is needed for their restoration, their healing, but also so that they can move into these roles and fulfill their purpose, their wider purpose, spiritual purpose in the world.
Are there a handful of maybe one or two tasters of some examples of that women could
Yes,
start applying?
of course, of course. So the first one is a very universal struggle. Um, and I guess it is relevant for people reparenting their inner child, as well as having children, embodied
Yeah.
children. And that is around food, Sarah. Food, right?
Uh-huh.
Now, there's so many problems with food in the world now, especially in the Western world, where there's so much choice. And yet we have problems with people have addictions to food. They have intolerances. They have obesity. We've got bulimia, anorexia. So many people are out of touch with what foods to eat, when they feel full, all of these things. And a lot of those things stem from when we grow up, when we were growing up, and the beliefs we were told by our parents. So I was told things like, you have to finish your food, sweets and desserts are like treats that you have to earn. These things that parents taught us. Now there's all sorts of extra things now around, oh, kids have got to eat healthy food. Now, does a child know what healthy food is? No, they haven't got a clue what healthy food is. And yet from the earliest ages, we're looking at how much children are eating, what they're eating, how they're eating. We're monitoring it all the time. Or mothers and fathers are monitoring what they are eating, and have got this ideal idea in their head about what they should be eating and how much and when. And that is actually putting the child out of touch with what their body needs at that time. And sometimes they don't need to eat in the day. Sometimes they only need a celery stick or a chocolate bar or something. They know what they need. Their bodies know what they need. And yet we've put them out of touch by imposing our ideas. Now, so one thing that can liberate you totally from any of this battleground, really it becomes a battleground rather than a joyful experience of sitting around the table, when you've got these peacock parents looking at everything that their children are eating, how they're eating, when they're eating, why they're eating. That, and not to mention the pressure that that puts on children, particularly neurodiverse children, but all children, to perform, to do the right thing, to eat what their parents think they should be eating, to hide what they're actually eating. I mean, it opens up so many problems for people. Now, if you imagine just food in a lifetime, how many meals you're going to have with a family in a lifetime? If you could change that, if you could do one thing, if you could wave your magic wand and change that one issue from a battleground into a harmonious thing, what could you do? And the thing that you can do is to understand that no child that is born in the Western world that is offered 3 meals a day has ever been known to starve. And so when you really understand that, what you get from that is it's all about offering food. My job is, as a parent, is to offer food. So my focus, instead of what they're eating, how much they're eating, and when they're eating, I change that focus totally into me. My job is to prepare this food and to offer the food. And it's a sacred job. So when my focus is on preparing the food, presenting the food, it finishes. Once it's on the table, on the altar, on the table, my job finishes. That's not my business. What the child does with what I have provided is nothing to do with me. So I can just enjoy my meal and sit there and talk about whatever I want to talk about. And I'm not concerned about how much they eat, what they eat, and even if they eat. Because if they're not hungry and they're not eating and they're not interested, that's absolutely fine. I just remove the plates. And then when it's time for the next meal, my job again is to prepare and present the food. What the child does with it is up to them. And so all that emotional energy and projection comes back. They're not being watched. They're not being assessed, they're not being judged. They've got none of that to worry about. They can just concentrate on themselves, feeling relaxed around eating, around meals. And when they eat, if they don't want to eat, they don't want to eat. That's absolutely fine. No problem.
Mm, mm. And
And
in
this
doing that, I suppose you're modeling a different way of being around food.
and this one thing has changed. I can't tell you how many people's lives just knowing that. Unfortunately for me, I knew that from a very early on in my parenting journey. I came
Mm,
across that notion that it was all about offering food. And yeah, people need to know that the table needs to be liberated from all of that, all of that scrutiny and that judgment and that, oh, not eating enough, or they're not eating the healthy stuff or whatever. And the child can then eat what their body wants to eat and when their body wants to eat it, and they can start to feel empowered.
mm, yeah. Let go of all the heaviness.
All the heaviness, all the beliefs and stuff that go on around it. And the second one that I'll share with you is all around the whole concept of never going to let my child go to McDonald's, never going to let my child have a gun, all of this kind of, never going to let them have a mobile phone, all of these things, right? And there are lots of different factions around those things. So you have the parents that will say, right, I'm never going to go to McDonald's. And you've got the parents that we're going to take them to McDonald's as a treat every week, and blah, 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 blah. And then we've got the parents who say, right, never going to have Barbies, no Barbie dolls, and that because they're evil, they're bad. And the other, we're not going to give sons guns because they'll make them violent. So that's a very extreme position to have. You have a lot of parents who have these extreme views on these things. Now, that I was thinking to myself, well, I don't reckon much to Barbies. I don't reckon much to McDonald's. That's me, right? But I don't want my child to grow up turn around and say to me, you never took me to McDonald's. You wouldn't let me have a Barbie. So what do I do? That's my dilemma. What do I do? So that is a situation, Sarah, when I look up at the heavens, and I go, right, so this is my dilemma. What do I do? None of these things feel right. And what came to me was take her to McDonald's twice a year. Let her have Barbies, but don't put any emotion on it. So this is exactly what I did. Every so often, she never asked to go, my daughter. I just would say, right, let's go to McDonald's. And we went to McDonald's, we got the Happy Meal, we sat there, with the plasticky chips and the table, and just for about 10-15 minutes we just ate together. I didn't make any big deal. It wasn't like, oh, let's go to McDonald's, it's an amazing place, it's a big treat. We just went there, we had the food, we had a chat, we said, right, let me put the stuff in the bin. No emotion involved, as if it was a normal thing. It was just a kind of simple normal thing. There was no big emotion attached to it. And then 6 months later, oh, let's go to McDonald's. We'd sit there, have a little chat, have a little Happy Meal together. She never asked to go, and she knew that food wasn't very much, wasn't up to much, because it isn't. But she worked that out for herself, because I was neutral. I was emotionally neutral about it. So I regard this as a kind of homeopathic approach to these things.
Mm,
So with Barbie, she said, "Can I have a Barbie?" I said, "Yeah, of course you can have a Barbie." So she had a few. She played with them a little bit, and then one day she was like, "Mummy, I'm bored of my Barbies. Can we get rid of them?" I said, "Yeah, sure." And off they went.
yeah.
Because it's like, you have to trust that your child, if you think it's crap or there's nothing much to it, let your child work that out for themselves. Don't tell them it's crap.
Mm,
And if you have a child that really loves Barbies, let them enjoy them. Let them have them.
mm,
Um, but it's like it's this emotional projection and this emotional energy that we invest in all these things that we think are right or wrong. And actually, there's always a middle way, and that's really going to be so much about what I'm going to be writing about to share with parents, is finding
mm,
this middle path where you're not caught up with either extreme. So you
yeah.
can't have kids turn around and say, you never did this, you never let me do that. It's like, Yeah, it's a very different approach, how you find this wisdom, direct wisdom for yourself in any dilemma that you're in as a parent.
Thanks, Kathryn. That
Pleasure.
makes a lot of sense. Are there any parting thoughts before we wrap up?
Just keep being aware, keep feeling your feelings, keep saying yes, keep opening to your truth and following what you resonate with and trusting it, whatever that is and wherever it takes you. I went to Australia for 3 months a few years ago without much of a plan, and I had the most amazing time. So sometimes you just have to follow your calling, and if you can restore yourself to this place of wholeness, it will change absolutely everything.
Kathryn, thank you so much for your time, your energy, and the sharing of your wisdom, your learnings, your understandings, and your knowings. I really, really appreciate it.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me.